how to rattle and call in a buck in the late season. This is Sean McVay with Sean's Outdoor Adventures, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about how to rattle and call in a buck in the late season. Just take a look at this footage and then I'm going to explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. When you get into the late season, deer still do a lot of sparring, the bucks do. But really, in the late season, it's very different than the aggressive rattling of the rut. So you don't want to be clashing and banging and making an intense noise in the late season. First and foremost, you got to realize that bucks are closer to dropping their antlers as they get into the late season. So the more aggressive the sparring, the more likely they could have an antler break off, which they don't really want to do just yet because there's still some breeding to be done. Typically what they'll do is they'll just lock antlers and push each other, much like the early preseason. Like in most northern states, you're talking about late September. And what they're doing is establishing a pecking order, a dominance. They're getting a sense by pushing back and forth, they can feel who's stronger. They're avoiding the aggressive fighting, and the dominant, stronger buck will do the breeding when the opportunity comes about. So let me talk to you about a little bit of strategy, how to utilize this in the late season. I often like to start with a grunt. There have been many late season hunting situations that I've been in my life where I've hit the grunt call 1, 2, 3 times at the most, and deer have come in. So in the late season, if a deer is really willing to come, very often they're going to come right in. If not, you're likely not going to see anything. They're either really spookish and really skittish, or they're receptive, or there's the ones who are indifferent, but those are not as common in the late season. The first time I experienced this, I was hunting in the late season. I grunted one time and a whole group of deer came running to me. There was 3 bucks and 2 does in the group, or 2 or 3 does, I can't remember the exact amount. And the 2 biggest bucks, an 8-pointer and a 7-pointer, maybe it was a 5-pointer. They locked antlers and just pushed each other for about 40 minutes. And they were just outside of bow range from me. Eventually, the one doe turned and worked her way past me. All the deer came in, and I was so excited that I was going to get my first 8-pointer, and a big one at that. I blew the shot. Like, I just didn't focus and shot right over his back. And later that morning, where's my 6-pointer? Later that morning, this 6-pointer chased a doe past me, and I didn't mess up that time. But the point is, I like to start off with just a grunt and see if any deer respond. I want to give you another example. There was another time I was hunting on the edge of a field just inside the wood line and at the top of a hill. And as the morning broke, I let out one grunt, burnt, and several bucks and a doe or 2 came running past me, and I was trying to film myself. The point is, in the late season, if they're ready to come, if they're willing to come, a lot of times they'll come right in, even just from a grunt. Now, if you want to get into the soft rattling, that could attract a buck, because a buck could hear that, the antlers pushing match, and think, hey, maybe there's a doe that's coming into heat over there. Let me go see if I can get into the mix. So, soft sparring. You're just putting the antlers together. You're kind of pushing like as if 2 bucks were pushing each other. You're doing a little tickling of the antlers, and then they pull their head apart, so it'll be kind of a sliding motion. So that's kind of the approach you want to take in the late season for calling whitetail deer. Another question I often get is, how often should I call? In the late season, don't call much. If they're going to respond, it's going to be pretty immediate. If not, you're just blowing your spot up. Because if you're calling multiple times throughout the day, any deer that are still within earshot, they're going to pinpoint your location and they're going to avoid it. Because a lot of times getting into the late season, deer get a little more skittish, even on private land. So I would encourage you to keep the calling to a minimum. Just do one, at the most 2 calling series while you're out for the whole sit. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And save your calling for the most optimal time. So in the morning, deer are moving within the first half hour of daylight the most. So I would say watch your sight pins. When you have a good clear view of your sight pins, do your first calling series, put it away. Maybe a half hour before you're going to leave, try one more time. If you're doing an evening sit, wait until the last half hour, do a soft calling series. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. If not, that's it. Don't spend your whole time calling. I'm Sean McVay, Sean's Outdoor Adventures. I want to thank you for tuning into this video. If you haven't been in on the giveaways, go to the giveaways page on my website. I'm often giving away lots of stuff, and that's my way of thanking you for following my videos. Until next time, take care and God bless.